don't have the laugh to start because we can't make fun of him. So we have to make fun of him not being here.
Welcome to the marketing trench. Ricardo isn't here because
Ricardo's not here.
What happened, and this is a true story, and I'm not making this up on the fly. Ricardo just woke up. He's not working at all today. No, I'm totally lying. We don't know. Ricardo's on his way in, but today we're going to be talking about a really, really cool project that Scott has been working on for at least a year, longer than that. I mean, if we go all the way back to the beginning of the idea, it goes way, way back, and we'll dive into that. But I mean, in terms of actually building this thing, how long have you been working on
it? Well, the project has evolved. It started off as a website, and actually what we're going to talk about today is kind of what we learned from 10 plus years of Google Analytics of creating content. Okay. But the platform that we created, I thought we were going to have a different conversation about the platform piece, but no, we've spent about the last year positioning this so that we can use these strategies that we're talking about today so that any expert in the mortgage or real estate profession, and really my whole point here in what we're talking about is being found on Google and YouTube. Consumers are out there trying to get answers to their questions, and we're simply not being found. And there's any number of reasons. There's time, understanding the equipment. I don't know where to start. I don't know all these things. What I'm hoping to have a conversation with about today is to give you the empirical evidence and the motivation to figure out how to overcome those learning curves and put yourself in a position where you can answer that you can be found on Google and YouTube. It's almost that simple.
So we titled today's conversation "Building the Ultimate Referral Machine," which is based off of a talk that Scott you have put together when you talk about this thing. And I got to say, there are a couple things I like about it, just at a high level, and this is why I think people should listen in. So first, I have learned some of these lessons from Scott, and I've seen this stuff work over the last couple of years since we've been talking, right? And I have to say, too, that I am not the best practitioner of these lessons. In fact, I'm a terrible practitioner of these lessons. But Scott's really been motivating me. And, you know, this industry is full of people who have come up with solutions after sitting and thinking about it for a very long time and never having actually put their battle plan to test. But it's going to work for you, I swear, pay me money, right? And you know, Scott is not one of those people. Scott has put his own money, his own time, his own business on the line for this stuff. And he's seen it work. He's actually had it work not just for him, but for other people. And what it is it's fundamentally a long view content strategy. And that's the other thing. This industry is full of quick wins, right? Like, hey, you know, hook up this piece of software to these other things, get these campaigns going, and you're going to start instantly generating listings and whatever. And that's not what the focus of this is. This is on helping you to build a long-term career that really just matures into something where you are getting repeat and referral business. And you can be competitive. You can offer something really distinct and unique from the big box offerings, which we're all facing competition from. Whether you're a real estate agent facing competition from a Zillow or even a Redfin, whether you're me facing a competition from maybe like an Endpoint, or whether you're a lender facing competition from a Rocket Mortgage type of operation, the fact of the matter is there are people who have hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising revenue who are speaking to you and all of your friends through streaming platforms, through YouTube, through Facebook, everywhere where you're hanging out, they're there, making it seem like the thing that you offer is push button, get service on the internet easy, and that you can be replaced. And it's like, all right, what do we do in the face of that to offer something that's actually valuable and distinct and unique and really meets the consumer where they are? The consumer where they are right now is, I'm thinking about this big box solution, but I feel like there's a missing piece. And they want that missing piece from you. So are you going to be in a place to give them the missing piece? So at a high level, that's what we're talking about today. And Scott, I want to hand the floor over to you. You've got a presentation, and let's just dive in and start working through it.
Sure. Oh, okay. That did not go the way that I expected it to go. Is that it? Hang on. Let me see what I got here. I just had it up, and now I don't. So,
There it is. It's over. It's the other screen you had.
hang on. Let me see here. No, okay, that's crazy. I just tested this.
If you swipe over, I think it moves your. You want to swipe your whole screen over.
Oh, like this? There it is. You got it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So what the way that I position this is really this is a 10 plus year case study of creating consumer direct marketing content. And Dustin, what you said is so important because the majority of the narrative that we get from the vendors in our space, that's advertising. It's put in a quarter, get out a gumball, but there's no long game with that. And what I've learned is that by making small adjustments to my perspective and to my workflow, I'm able to do things, short-term activities that build exponentially on my long-term success. And as I sort of started thinking about this, and I'm like, how do I explain this? And this was the best way that I could explain it, is how to build the ultimate referral machine and make the world a better place. And what really, oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. Okay. So really what it comes down to is we're talking about content marketing. And if you talk about referral sources, past clients are a great referral source, right? We talk about this all the time. Your sphere of influence is a great referral source. Peer-to-peer is a great referral source. But I'm arguing that the absolute highest trust, highest conversion referral source you have is you. Because if somebody sits down with you face to face and you are involved in a transaction with somebody, or if you have an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, they know, like, and trust you. And it happens pretty quickly because you're an expert. You've been doing this forever. Given the opportunity to engage with a consumer, you have a highest possible opportunity, the highest possible chance of earning their trust, earning their business, and then becoming an advocate for you and referring business to you. So what my thesis here is, I suppose, is that when you create content, when you take the expertise and the experience out of your head and you put that in a place where consumers can find it on Google and YouTube, you are essentially cloning yourself tens, hundreds, or thousands and thousands of times. And that's what I've done over the last 10 years. So I have thousands of clones out there of myself talking, writing in text, doing video, of explaining challenges that consumers are having on their path to home ownership. And so that's really what this is about. When you have this content out there, now granted it's a one-way conversation because they're only consuming your content. They're not engaging with you. But if you can earn their trust and you can start an engagement with them, when that consumer contacts you, they're not asking you your interest rates. They're not asking you your commission. They're asking you, how do I get started? Because they already know who you are. You've already earned their trust, and they already know that you're a problem solver. And that's probably one of the more important things that as we go through this, that I want people to understand. Well, what do I write? What do I talk about? And I'm going to go through, we've identified 3 different types of content that you should be talking about. But ultimately, you're talking to one person and solving one person's problem. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. A lot of people think the internet gives you access to billions of people, and it kind of does, but you don't want one-to-many messaging. You lose the personal aspect, and you lose the ability to earn somebody's trust. Yeah. I'm solving one person's problem. One person trying to buy a house and they have student loans, right? I'm trying to solve that person's problem. The thing is, that person exists hundreds of thousands of times in the country. Yes. And they're all on Google looking for the answer to their question. So again, the long game, this is really building, this is about building the long game. And I have I had a slide in my full length presentation of Gary Vee, right? Gary Vee, you can still find his very first wine library from 2006 on YouTube, and it doesn't have very many viewers, and it's really not good. It's still Gary, but it's not great. Gary didn't become Gary in 12 months or 24 months. It took years and years of turning on the camera, having the conversation, publishing it on social media, and putting it out there.
Speaking of putting it out there, what a dork.
Is that, or is that not what we refer to as an S-eating grin? Has right there? Like, you know,
finally decided to show.
Oh my God.
Okay, so enough about Ricardo. Let's start with the presentation. So, because we talked about you for the first 15 minutes, Ricardo, we were just talking smack on you. So let's get to the meat. So this is really what I'm talking about, is building the long game, and again, developing the short-term practices that contribute to that long game. Because when you put content online, you gain inertia. There is a inevitable momentum that grows with putting good content, publishing good content consistently, and creating a knowledge base, and creating a knowledge base of basically your expertise. So the reason why I think this is so important is what I call McMortgage mediocrity. And really what it is it's the domination.
How dare you? Chicken nuggets are amazing.
Chicken nuggets are. But a kid in a call center that worked at Pizza Hut last year, when you push button and you think you're going to get a mortgage, that's not so fun. So, and also the again, this is, so the analogy, the McDonald's analogy here is, you can get full, but it's not good for you. Like, you're gonna regret it. Like, your health is gonna be damaged. But really, what this is there are literally companies that are spending. Dustin, you said hundreds of thousands. It is billions of dollars a year to convince consumers that an expert is not needed. So this is a list of the top 10 companies that own, I think, 93% of all mortgage-related terms in search traffic. Only 2 of the people on this list are actual lenders, and it's Quicken Loans and Wells Fargo. They're the worst. All the rest of these are lead generation companies. So the problem, so as disappointed as I am about mortgage mediocrity, I'm even more disappointed in the fact that we're losing customers to lead generation companies. And that's a really tough reality that we all have to face. Now, the other side of that, and sort of the byproduct of McMortgage mediocrity, is it actually creates a market for disenfranchised consumers, because they can only do the easiest deals. Again, these are not professionals. They're not experts. They're selling leads to call centers staffed with people that make minimum wage, that are reading steps off of a computer screen. So Josh told this story to me when we first started working together. And I think this is just an amazing story. So I'll tell the Starfish story real quick. So there's this little kid on a beach, and the tide is low, and there's starfish all over the beach, just stranded on the beach. And this little kid is going there and picking up the starfish. And basically this old gentleman, or a person, walks onto the beach and sees this child doing this. And the kid's walking around picking up the starfish and flinging it back into the water. But there are literally thousands of starfish spread out on this beach. So the old man walks up to the kid and he says, "What are you doing?" You know? And he says, "Well, I'm saving starfish." And the guy says, "Well, there are thousands of starfish out here. The sun is coming up. There's no possible way that you can save all of them. You can't possibly make a difference. And so the little kid kind of looks at him, bends down, picks up another starfish, flings it into the water, and he says, well, I made a difference to that one.
Mm.
And to me, that is so powerful and so impactful. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about these consumers that got disenfranchised because they have 2 jobs, or they have student loans, or if you're a real estate agent, they have a contingent sale, or they're concerned about the market. And there's all of these people that the big box Zillows and Quickens and all these lending trees, they can't solve these problems. So what I've been doing is I've been saving Starfish for over 10 years. I have 10 years worth of Google Analytics, and that's where I've learned everything that I've learned. We've had almost 1.5 million people that have gone to our website. This is organic Google searches since August 2010. We have averaged over 11,000 consumers that are typing, and I'm not doing this to brag, I'm doing this to show that there are tens of thousands of people every single month typing questions into Google because their questions couldn't get answered by the first person they talked to. And that's almost 100% of this traffic. Now, that's a 10-year average. Today, my traffic, it varies between 23 and 27,000 unique visitors a month, 100% organic, just people doing searches and looking for questions. So I phrase this as conversations, right? Because this is content. If they go to my website, they are engaging in a one-way conversation of me explaining the answer to their question based on whatever they typed into Google. So these are conversations. So I've had 1.5 million conversations. How many of us can say that we've talked to 10,000 people a month about our profession? We don't. We can't. You can't possibly do that without an army of clones, right? And Ricardo, you missed this, but I think we've had this conversation. Every time you create content, you're cloning yourself, and you're putting yourself out there to have conversations and engage. So what did I learn from this? There are basically 3 content strategies that everybody should be aware of that you can dial into right now that are really, really powerful. The first one is timely and relevant content. This is newsjacking. This is the new administration coming out with a first-time buyer credit when anybody with a loan can't get a loan right now, can't buy a home, right? So like there's something to talk about there. That's important. That's newsjacking. If there's a guideline change, if there's an update to the RPA that sellers need to know about that gives them extra protections or buyers extra protections, these are all timely and relevant. Right now, we're getting a ton of traffic for people trying to refinance after forbearance. And I propped up, and I think we did an episode on this, we propped up the forbearancereport.org a year ago now, and that's averaged over 5,000 unique organic visitors a month for the last year with no promotion, just people typing in questions. How do I do this? And right now, on a pretty regular basis, I'm reaping the rewards of that investment that I made a year ago. Writing all of that content, I basically wrote it once a year ago. I haven't added any new content to it. But
you
now,
had like a hell of a weekend where you just cranked.
I did.
I remember that.
I built it over the weekend. Yeah, that was stupid, but I did it. So timely and relevant is really, really good. Because again, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit when we talk about the next frontier and where we're doubling down our efforts. But I have seen a lot of high trust audiences built around the CARES Act and around COVID, and what that means to homeowners and what that means to home buyers. And so that is really, really important. The next one is
real quick. You just used the phrase high trust audience. What is that, and why is it important?
High trust audience is me with my 20 years experience in the industry. I'm telling stories like I'm explaining this to my mother. So I'm talking to one person. So when that consumer finds my article, it's not a sales pitch. There's no call to action. The only call to action is, do you have questions? Reach out to me and I'll try to help you. It's not, this isn't a sales pitch. This is an education and an empowering. So all of your content is a trust asset. Again, if people see that you're a genuine person and that you really have this experience, and if, and I keep saying this because it's so important, it doesn't matter if you answer their exact question, because they quite frankly think that their question is different than what you just answered, when in reality it probably isn't. And this is one of the most brilliant things that Ricardo talks about all the time. There are not 10,000 questions about buying a home or qualifying for a mortgage. There are 10 questions asked 10,000 ways. And that kind of shows you the leverage that you can get from creating content and sharing your expertise.
The author
Oh, go ahead.
The author that talks about newsjacking and a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is David Meerman Scott. So
Can you post that in the chat?
Yeah, he wrote 2 books. One is called Worldwide Rave. That one's a quick and easy read. And then the other one is The New Rules of Marketing and PR. In that one, he particularly talks about newsjacking.
Yeah.
And I just want to be really clear on the who is trusting whom. It is the audience, the person who has gone into YouTube and searched for information related to forbearance or Google forbearance, putting their trust in you after discovering your content, listening to how you talk about it in the way you described, right? Like talking about it with your mother, not doing a sales pitch, and saying, you know what, I trust this guy.
100%.
Watching another video, I trust this guy a little more. Reading an article, I trust this guy a little more.
Yes. This sounds like somebody that knows what they're talking about. They didn't answer my question, but it sounds like they're really good at answering questions. So that's where and the other thing about this, and you think about how we as consumers want to be engaged with, we don't want to talk to salespeople. We don't want to be told what information we should consume in order to make a decision about this product or service. So by putting your content out there, it's 100% on the consumer's timeline and their convenience. Right? They're consuming your content. They're watching your videos. Maybe they're sharing it with their wife and they're having a conversation. If you did not earn their trust, you will not hear from them. If you earn their trust, you will be contacted by them saying, you know what, I've watched hours of your content. Can you please help us with this? There is no decision making at that point. The decision has already been made.
Well, and let's also just to, zoom back out for a second, because we're talking in one respect about how you're competing against the push button online solution, get solution. So you wouldn't say that consumers don't trust a big box solution like a Rocket Mortgage. They have some trust in it, but how would you compare the level, like the kind of trust they might have in a Rocket Mortgage versus the kind of trust that would be built up through what you're talking about, through this sort of content creation?
So I believe that the trust built on that kind of advertising is a complete and utter facade, because what they are selling does not exist. You cannot push a button and get a mortgage. When banks compete, you do not win. Your phone just blows the hell up for 2 weeks from telemarketers in call centers, whoever was the highest bidder to buy your data. So the messages that they're delivering are completely deceptive and just highly erroneous. It's not real. There is no push button mortgage. There is a form that gets sent to a call center and a telemarketer calls you. So they're lying. And because of that, so here's the deal. If you have no challenges, if you have no issues, you can sail through one of those systems, and lots of people do. They may not, it's McDonald's. They'll get full for a little while. They'll own a home. And quite frankly, I'm glad of that. And I'm not talking down on these companies, because I'll be honest, if my goal was to build that type of company, I would build it exactly the way that they built it, because I think it's brilliant. I just don't think it's the whole story. And I think that they have so much money behind their narrative that alternative narratives are not being heard. And quite frankly, one of these telemarketers will never tell the consumer, you know what? This is a little bit outside of our box. I would recommend you talk to XYZ and ask them this question. They're probably better fit to answer that question for you. They won't do that. They just turn them down, or they approve them only to be turned down later when an underwriter actually looks at it. So there's nothing we can do about that. And they are absolutely helping a lot of people get into the right place. But could it be better? There's a difference between getting a mortgage from Quicken and having a 30-minute conversation with Josh Lewis about the importance of how you buy the home and building long-term wealth and what this means and what are you going to do with this home. Should I buy this home now because then I can sell it and buy this and get this tax shelter? How do I grow long-term generational wealth for my family? You will never hear that conversation on a Quicken phone call. You just won't. They're trying to commoditize a product that cannot be commoditized. They're commoditizing the dream of home ownership, but they're not commoditizing the value of home ownership. That can't be done. And so it's a huge difference. At the end of the day, anybody that buys a home, that was the right decision. It's what type of home and what they do with it 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or if they lose their job, do they have a professional that they can call and say, I'm in this situation, how do I get out of it? It's having a trusted advisor. It's like having somebody that you trust that can help you navigate these things and help you navigate through your life. So it's not, I like to be hyperbolic, I guess, a little bit on the evil of the evil empire and mortgage mediocrity, but it is just settling for mediocrity as opposed to engaging with an expert who could, quite frankly, be a valuable asset to you far into the future. And that's really the difference. And I think that's a more important relationship to be built than the other thing. So That was a little bit of a rabbit hole. Second type of content that is really, really valuable is subject matter expertise. So subject matter expertise can be anything. It can be an employment niche. Maybe you specialize in getting policemen into homes, right? And there's reasons for that. Policemen's income is weird. They work 3 days on and 2 days off. Firemen are the same way. They're not straight W-2 employees all the time. They have different types of schedules. Maybe your family is in law enforcement, so you have the ability to do that. DACA is a little bit of both newsjacking and being a subject matter expertise, right? So as we start talking about immigration and descendants of illegal immigrants that, they came over when they were kids, their parents brought them here. So they're not documented by no fault of their own, essentially. There are loan programs for these people. And there's more of an effort to be more inclusive to these immigrants, especially the ones that didn't necessarily make a decision to, let's say, break the law or whatever the case is. And everybody has their reasons. But understanding those guidelines front to back, understanding what documentation you need, where they find that documentation. And that's where the majority of all of my traffic almost always came from a combination of newsjacking and subject matter expertise. So the first one that I really did was waiting periods, how to buy a home after bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale, and deed in lieu. I wrote that in 2011. I became a subject matter expert at all of the underwriting guidelines around all of those scenarios for every single program. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, USDA, all treat those guidelines, all have different guidelines. Same with student loans. You have student loans. That was 2015 was the big guideline that changed that. And then first-time home buyers. If you're in a community that you deal with a bunch of first-time buyers, which is kind of a tough demographic right now, but you're familiar with all of the local assistance programs and that kind of thing, that's your subject matter expertise. And all of these on a Venn diagram, the overlap is greater than the part that doesn't overlap, because sometimes you'll have a newsjacking situation where you can become a subject matter expertise on what that event was. And then ultimately, if you are in a local market, you become a local influencer. And this is your mayorism or your digital mayor. There's a few different things that people call it. But if you're a local influencer, you really stop becoming a salesperson and you become the go-to person in your community. This includes doing interviews with small businesses and talking about how hard it was through COVID and we're open for business now, and mention the fact that you saw this interview on YouTube and you'll get a free slice of pizza. Interviewing the school superintendent about how they're going to reopen schools.
Well, and why this matters is something, Scott, that you've really drilled into me over the last several years, which is everyone feels like their situation is unique, right? And what makes them feel like their situation is unique is their local context mostly, right? So even though you and Ricardo know, like we discussed earlier, there's 10 questions asked 1,000 different ways. The reason that happens is because people feel like, well, yeah, but I'm a little bit different. Yeah. And so that's where you being involved in it's not just that they're like, hey, Scott's involved in the community. That's neat. It's like, no, Scott knows something about my situation here in Orange County, California, that the big guy can't know, the big box solution can't know, because they're not tailored for me and they don't understand how things work around here with our market around here, and, how people, like what people value around here, right? Something like that. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I guess the other way, this is actually such a fun strategy, and if you have the opportunity to be a local celebrity or a local influencer, it's just so powerful for mortgage and real estate people, because you can really just let your city or your town shine. You can draw out all of the great things about your community, and ultimately all conversations lead to, this is why if you're interested in living in this community and experiencing all of these things, hit me up. I know, and a consumer watching that is going to be like, you know what, this guy knows everything about that community. Instead of Googling it, let's just call him.
Knows everything and everyone.
They know everything and they know everyone. And you're like, oh, you need a handyman. I've got this guy. You need a maintenance guy. We know these people. You need all of these things, and you become the local leader, the local influencer. So those are the three types of strategies: timely and relevant, newsjacking, subject matter expertise, and that can be demographic or guideline. Subject matter expertise can also be maybe you specialize in selling owner-occupied units. Right. So like, hey, there's all these duplexes in this neighborhood here, or here's how you get into it. So there's a lot of different things. And then the local influencer is where you really get the opportunity to have some fun and become a local influencer. The other reason this is so powerful is that the big money is spent nationally. It's not spent locally. So you're not competing with the Zillows and the Quickens, because the keyword of the community is in their question. So they're not going to necessarily, you're going to be much more prominent because of keyword matching in their searches, and it's going to be easier for you to be found. So, and nobody's says, I'm going to put $1 million in Podunk, Idaho, wherever it is, right? So if you live in Podunk, Idaho, wherever it is, I don't think Podunk's a real city, you could literally own that by consistently creating content. And it doesn't take years. It depends on the competition and your consistency and your passion.
Best places to live in Podunk.
The best places
Send your
to
hate
be is
mail to
Podunk.
Scott at findmywayhome.com. Scott at findmywayhome.com is where Podunk, Idaho is to send the
No,
hate mail.
it is not. All right, let's scream through this. So here's the secret sauce, and we've talked about this a lot, and this is just closing transactions from conversations, from content marketing, and this is called the hub and spokes model. So what you're doing is you own the conversion point for all of your conversations. So you create a piece of content, you share it on social media, you invite them back to your website or your conversion point where you can give the consumer the opportunity to engage with you directly.
This is classic HubSpot inbound marketing. Their book on inbound marketing. Brian Halligan.
Absolutely. There was so much information about this. This is absolutely not new. We've been talking about this, Ricardo, for a dozen years. And when you actually look at the HubSpot logo, it is a hub and spoke model, right?
Yeah.
And so what that is thinking about creating content once and then distributing it on all of these conversation channels that all lead back to your conversion point. And we've talked about these tools. So we use Verse. So we have a phone number that consumers can call. That's a 24/7 monitored phone number. So this is 8,700 leads that we did in the last 12 months. We got 66% of those people we were able to contact and engage with. So now think about those leads you bought, right? If you bought 1,000 leads, or if you bought 100 leads, do you really think you would have a conversation with 66 of them? What do you think, Ricardo? No, absolutely not, because they don't know why you're calling. These consumers, you've already earned their trust, so they're expecting the follow-up. This is my little pro tip. This was one of the most impactful statistics that I was able to extract from this, is that 42% of all of those engagements were on weekends and at night. So if I could be so bold, I would like to say that you are losing out on 42% of your potential business if you don't have tools in place and systems in place to capture conversations on nights and weekends, right? Because the consumer's you're not going to be there to engage with them.
It's not even that you need to make yourself available 24/7. Nope. That's not it at all.
Nope. And actually, let's go back up to right above that, the 43%. The 43% isn't the important part of that, because the way they do their percentages is goofy. The more important statistic here is that this is 2,460. So a qualified lead only means you spoke to the person, they know that they submitted their contact information, and they are requesting a conversation with an expert. That 3 criteria. That doesn't mean they qualify. It doesn't mean they're ready to buy today. It means that they are interested in talking to somebody. 2,469 of those people that we talked to, so that's 50% of the people that we talked to, but that's almost 30% of our total leads. So you're talking about 30% of your total leads being qualified. That is unheard of in the lead generation and the lead conversion business. And it is 100% a byproduct of content marketing, of your clones out there working on your behalf. So the next frontier, this is what we're doing now, and this is what I'm super excited about. We've talked about this a lot. We are quadrupling down on video and building out video on YouTube. There's a lot of reasons for that. So we had Jeb on our podcast earlier when Jeb just started building his YouTube channel. I think when we talked to Jeb, didn't he have like 13 or 14,000 subscribers? So this slide's a few weeks old. He's well over 30,000 subscribers now. Josh and Jeb
I love that every time we introduce Jeb is nobody. He's so unassuming.
He's just not that. He's just not that interesting. But he is. Jeb is a really genuine guy.
Drop the F-bomb. Is that
What's
you got hit? Look at his face.
Yeah, that does look like he was just getting ready to go up. But wait, this is a story that I need to tell you because this is insane. So every 2 weeks, Josh and Jeb do a 2-hour Ask Me Anything. They will, through the duration at any given point, they'll have 250 to 300 people watching the YouTube live, and they will have 2,000 to 3,000 views by the end of the
kidding me.
3 hours. And this, I don't know, it's not this question, and I don't think I have a screenshot of it. Let me see if I do. So I was looking at this the other day. No, I don't. Somebody paid $99 to Jeb to show his comment thanking Josh for solving the problem that 7 other lenders couldn't give him the answer to. This guy was so grateful that he boosted his comment on the Facebook Live just so that it would show up on the screen.
That's stupid.
Dropped a C note on that thing and just said, here's a penny to show my appreciation. That does not happen.
That doesn't happen.
Now let's talk about this kid. This is a 24-year-old kid from Ohio. I think he does live in Podunk, Ohio. So I interviewed him on another podcast a while back, and he actually went almost 2 years with less than 100 subscribers. Where he really skyrocketed is he added 50,000 subscribers in the last 12 months by newsjacking the CARES Act. And he just started creating video about it. He literally gets hundreds of applications a month off of people clicking a link on his YouTube description. He's creating content once, and it's continuing to work for him. Jennifer Beeston is another great example. Very, very similar. She specializes in VA. She's generating a little bit over 100 applications a month. She's up in San Francisco. Again, absolutely nothing spectacular about Jennifer other than the fact that she's a spectacular human being, but her production quality isn't through the roof. It's kind of a camera way back. There's no depth of field. It's not HD. She's sitting at her desk and she's just talking about stuff. It's not, the production value is not over the top, but her content is genuine and it's consistent. And so it took her a couple of years until she started getting momentum. And now she's probably getting really close to 20,000 subscribers. With 20,000 subscribers, these people are also making 4 to 5 digits in ad revenue from YouTube by doing this. So there's that. But we're not really, that's not really what we're talking about. So the moral of my story here is that you are by far your best ultimate referral machine by cloning yourself. And the hard truth about content marketing is you are literally doing all of the work right now. You're just not doing the last step to make your conversations findable on Google and YouTube. And here's a perfect example, and I'll leave everybody with this. I was actually just talking to Jeff Zimfer, a Mortgage Marketing Institute, super brilliant marketing guy. And he was saying that BombBomb now, it sounds like you can press a button and it'll publish it to YouTube. So now imagine every single email that you get from a consumer, don't reply to the email. Record a BombBomb video, transcribe it, publish it to YouTube. How much easier can you possibly get than that? You simply can't. That is so simple. Or Descript, that we talked about Descript. I want to get the founders of Descript and do a whole hour on that. Do a video, go through and modify the text. It will edit your video, publish it to YouTube. And you do that to every single question that is answered by one of your consumers. Because if one consumer asks you that question, there is exponentially more people that have that problem or didn't know that they had that problem until they encountered your content. So that's it, boys. That's my That is me trying to make a compelling argument to stop making excuses and start publishing content and start cloning yourself so that consumers have access to your brilliance.
Okay, so now I want this is really cool, Scott. I like your theory. You got a pretty theory.
My hypothesis? Are you going to downgrade me to a hypothesis?
You got a pretty theory, Scott. What did you do?
No.
What did you do? Because let's be honest, you have more, what's the word? You have more go than a lot of people, including my camera, which is drunk right now. I apologize. You have more go than a lot of people. Okay, so you're willing to actually put up the camera, get in front of a microphone, and say things. And other people are like, well, I don't really feel comfortable.
He has no shame.
Yeah, and I feel like people just want it to be more accessible. And if there was only a platform that made it more accessible for lenders.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that on this
Okay.
podcast.
So,
but no, I did. The result of this, and I do want to share this because I think it's important, and it's not important for me. It's important to know that it exists, and I want more people just thinking about how to do this. But I did. I created a platform that is literally a done-for-you platform for mortgage experts to turn on an iPad for 1 hour a month and tell stories about people they've helped. And we produce it, we publish it, and we promote it for them. And then the byproduct of that, because again, the solution I'm trying to solve is I'm trying to directly connect consumers with experts. How do you know you're an expert if you're not publishing content? So we're getting the eyeballs and we're pointing them to the experts, and then they have the ability to look at the consumers. Look at the consumer's content. I think, am I stopped sharing my screen? Look at the expert's content and then earn their trust. So yeah, that's a separate business model, and I think it's really interesting. I wouldn't mind unpacking that and opening up the curtain on that, just so that people can kind of understand what it is a little bit. But my product isn't the easiest and most cost-effective for most people. Literally, the most cost-effective and easiest thing for people to do is, instead of responding to that email, record it in a video. That's it. Just do the video and publish it on YouTube. If you have a blog, transcribe it and publish it on the blog. And
the automation that we set up for one of the people that you introduced me to has led to 12 appointments this week alone.
Really?
12 appointments this week alone, and that's not including, like, we're just setting up the automation to track the.
Sorry, Ricardo, what's this automation? I don't know anything about that.
So somebody is interested in looking at homes. So they sign into an open house. They get an automated text message that says, "Hey, thank you for visiting one of our properties. Do you want to schedule an instant open house tour of one of our properties? If so, just click the link below," and it sends them to a Calendly link. The Calendly link says, "Great, what's your first name, last name, email address, and phone number? What property are you interested in touring? We'll schedule you with an agent to see that property immediately." We schedule in 45-minute blocks, and it transfers it to a rep that then takes them to tour that home and take a mortgage application. And then they're using Arrive to take the mortgage application. Arrive doesn't have a Zapier integration, which kind of sucks. Yeah. But it does email status updates, mortgage application submitted, still waiting on this, this has been submitted, etc. So we're doing an email parser to update the status and updating it into like Follow Up Boss. But as of this week, 12 appointments, and we're processing like the loan status updates. Right now, the conversation I'm having with the lender is, this is all working, which is awesome. We have every appointment logged on 1 month master calendar, so all my LOs can see it, and I know what's going on. I don't have to check in with anybody or check in on anything. The next iteration of this is I'm having the same conversation over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
So how can I offload that so that I'm only having one conversation and automating the engagement that's going out of it, which is what you're talking about.
That's exactly why I did it. Is I started having the same conversations over and over again, and I am lazy as hell, and I don't want to have those conversations over and over again. So if I put that into a format that the consumer can watch it, read it, do whatever, yeah, it's like I know all of this stuff sounds complex, and it is, but it is infinitely easier than it was even 5 years ago. The
Yeah.
technology has come so far; it's so user friendly, and we're not hiding these conversations. We're having this conversation right now, wide open on the internet, that anybody can take it and use it and apply it and start researching these tools and even contacting us on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook group, and asking questions about these things.
Our next step is when a loan status gets updated and says docs submitted or pay stubs submitted, and it updates the loan status for the client, is it adds a tag in Follow Up Boss, and then that tag triggers a drip campaign that says, hey, thanks for submitting your pay stubs. Here's what you should expect to happen next.
That's brilliant. Well, and the other part of this, Ricardo, that you need to get to is because you're dealing with first-time buyers, and because we know the nature of this market, there's going to be probably a large majority of those inquiries that aren't going to buy for 6 to 18 months. So now you've got to put in a nurture campaign. And what is the best way to have a nurture campaign? It's to send your clones out there to educate them on what the market looks like and how to plan your next 6 months of what your market looks like. So then there's that nurture piece that goes into the lead generation piece. Yes.
What we're trying to think through is like, how good is a loan application good for? When is a loan application submitted? Like, when does that turn into a dead file, basically? And at that point, you turn it into a nurture sequence.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with what your loss leader is. Why did they fill out the form? Right. So if it was because there's free money and you don't need a dime to buy your first home, if you're doing marketing or you're doing advertising for down payment assistance, 0 money down, you can get forms filled out, but you're not going to convert.
Right.
Because but see, you tackle one thing at a time. You've created the challenge of having to follow up with all of the potential business. That's not a bad problem to have. So now solve that problem. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think, I mean, one of the unlocks for me in all of this was how you talk about cloning yourself. I know that was way at the start of this, but it's such a powerful idea. I mean, honestly, prior to you using that term of clone, I had never thought of it that way, and I think that there's something that you identified a human behavior that I think many people overlook. And that human behavior is, when I care about something, I go and try and find out everything I can about it. And while I'm doing that, there's a relationship being built, right? And so it's like, if I'm at the mall or I'm riding, the metro or whatever, and I see an ad for Rocket Mortgage, or I'm watching my favorite TV show, like, the odds of me caring about a loan at that moment are astronomically low, which is why broadcast works, because you're talking to, tens of millions of people trying to grab the, thousands that are actually, you happen to be thinking about that, and your distraction marketing grabbed them, right? Yep. But when you're publishing to a platform like YouTube, and I'm going there and I have no idea why my camera is behaving like this, and I'm going there and I'm looking up something like, hey, DACA, can I get a home loan if I'm a dreamer, right?
Yeah.
Like, I really, really care about that. And I care about it in that moment. And in that moment, you meet me. Like, you meet me with the information I want. And I'm able to talk to you, as it were, without having the concern of you immediately hitting me with a follow-up of some kind, right? Like, hey, I saw you watch my video. You want to close right now? Give me your pay stubs, right? Like, I can consume as many of your videos as I want. I can do it in the pacing that I want, that I feel comfortable with. I can jump around the conversation as I need to, right? So I can learn about DACA, and then I can learn about down payment assistance programs, or I can learn about DACA and then I can learn about VA loans because maybe I served, right? Something like that. And that's like it's a choose your own adventure. And the only way that can happen is if you as an expert put all of it out there, right? It's not one video, it's not 5 videos, it's not 10 videos, it's all the videos that you're putting out there on the stuff that you're regularly talking about. But man, the ability of people to just mine that, and like you had pointed out at the beginning, incrementally build up trust in you as the expert. Uh, it makes total sense to me, but man, at the same time, it's like people are afraid to actually do that. Like my camera's afraid to focus on me.
I think you said it before. I think you're just as white as the whiteboard behind you. The camera can't tell where human is and where white guy is.
Oh, that's amazing.
No, and and then the super stealthy part of that also, Dustin, is when people engage in our digital media, we can pixel them and follow them around with our brand. Right. So
Apple kills that.
Huh?
For now, until Apple kills that.
Yeah, but there's other ways. We're talking about YouTube.
There's ways around that, though.
Yeah, there are ways around that, and it's, but quite frankly, it shouldn't be necessary. If you have a library of content, what's going to happen is somebody's going to look at it again, and they're going to say, "Man, this person has 30 videos and they're all talking about different things. This person knows their stuff and they're obviously a problem solver. Maybe they can solve mine." So
that's honestly what most people want.
Yeah.
I just want to know. I just want to have some semblance of confidence that you can solve my problem or point me in the right direction.
I want to make sure you're not an idiot.
Right? I mean, basically.
Yeah. Yes. It's so true. So true.
All right. Well, I mean, thank you, Scott, for walking us through all that. And at some point when your platform is actually launched into the universe and live, and we can click through it and see how you have cashed it out, that would be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to share it.
If anyone is interested in maybe signing up for the next version of it, it's closed now because you did onboard a handful of people as your first users. But maybe if anyone is listening and wants to say, "Hey, look, I would be interested in your next round," where can they reach you?
Oh boy. Okay, let's do this. Let me see if I. No, I can't. I actually don't do it. It is findmywayhome.com/LO expert. So that's a little landing page. There's a form on there that I can do. I'll do a one-on-one discovery call just to find out what your marketing is. There's a 5-minute video of Josh explaining the platform and why we built it. So it's just /LO expert at findmywayhome.com/LO expert. And that's what that is.
Yeah, and I love that you're basically like, this isn't for everybody. We're gonna filter you out. Like this definitely isn't for everybody. I mean, we anticipate this will be 300 mortgage experts across the entire country that will probably build over the next 18 to 24 months. So it's not we have a very specific mission that we're trying to accomplish, and we're just looking for the right fighters to contribute to the battle against the evil empire. I like to think of it like, isn't it the American Express Black Card or something like that? Like, it's not for everybody in the way that, like, most of you aren't going to be able to make it. Yeah, this elite team, that's awesome.
But there are 99 ways to do it below the level of quality and price point that we've created. There are 99 ways to do it for much cheaper, much more efficient. It really is just that subtle mindset of changing your perspective. How do I convert this engagement with this current client into content that anybody can consume?
That's legit. Ricardo, where do people find you?
RicardoBueno.com.
And sign up for his newsletters. He has other podcasts, because that's the kind of guy Ricardo is.
Or log into our podcast 10 minutes late and you can see him. It's perfect. Yeah. You can always do
That's
that.
awesome.
Brutal. And you can find us at lighthouseescrow.com. That's my company. I've got an amazing team. You get to work with them. Don't worry, you don't have to work with me. It's good news for everybody. So lighthouseescrow.com. Find out what it will cost to sell your house in terms of closing costs. Find out how much money you get to walk away with. Right now, the market's hot. So if you're thinking about selling, go check it out. And that's it for us for this episode of The Marketing Trench. Thanks, guys. Until next time.
Yeah.